everyone, and thank you very much for joining a quick webinar. My name is Tyler Springer. I'm representing Infor today, Cloud Suite Industrial, and also work very closely with our partner, Guardian Business Solutions. Today, we're going to be reviewing advanced planning and scheduling and how to optimize your production shop floor. So again, just a brief intro into the agenda, introducing what APS advanced planning and scheduling is, a little bit of a difference between the different modes of finite or infinite capacity scheduling. We also have the planning and scheduling features and some components you can utilize in the background to also help optimize your shop floor. So just a comprehensive review or overview of kind of what Cloud Suite Industrial APS is right off the bat, right? So you have your Cloud Suite Industrial ERP, formerly known as Sightline. And then what we're incorporating is the advanced planning and scheduling robust engine that's encouraged to be run in the background at least once a day, right? This is the engine that's capturing your fluid demand. And once the results are analyzed, it becomes a review of all of those exception messages for your planners and schedulers. Right? From there, the work orders or job orders will then be scheduled and released out into the shop floor. And this is kind of bridging the gap between the soft schedule and then the firm schedule. Last but not least, depending on your shop floor environment, we have the capable to promise, get CTP, as well as available to promise, get ATP, depending on finite or infinite scheduling methodologies. So again, the overall goal of advanced planning and scheduling is to accomplish a few things and obviously optimize your production performance, right? One of the ways we do that is by finite scheduling and resource optimization, being able to constrain resources and understanding when they're available and maximizing efficiency across production. The next, we have capacity management and real-time analytics, right? Everybody is chasing after real-time analytics and then dynamic adjustment of your resources on the shop floor, whether it be a machine, a labor resource, or even a tool such as a die that might be utilized also with a machine. So APS is capable of handling those complex situations. Workforce planning and optimization, right? Your labor workforce, optimal staff with their credentials such as skills and certifications can be carried within the APS scheduling and planning engine, right? So it can consider what workers can work on what, as well as what machinery, maybe specific items or components has to go through. And then last but not least is the reduction of lead times as much as possible and also capturing accurate lead times. And then overall trying to incorporate downtime reduction wherever possible. So overall, the general pipeline we see when it comes to planning and scheduling and the implementation of a successful one with leading industry practice is typically when you have your planning, then it gets to your scheduling. So kind of going from that soft to firm schedule, right? And then from there, your execution. So where you're capturing your labor, your material, your start and your stop, potential indirect and direct categories as well. And then finally monitoring throughout the entire process, assuring that everything is optimized as much as possible. So here we'll hit on a few last slides here, just the key differences between traditional MRP and APS, right? Typically we say that this has to do with lead time, as you see right off the bat. So it's going to consider the items routings as well as the resource capacity available. Second's the bill of material, right? Planning the requirements for the entire BOM versus prioritizing the low level code and only looking at just that, right? Both backward and forward scheduling. APS will attempt to backward schedule if possible, given the date that the order is due. If it needs to, it will also forward schedule, allowing you to understand kind of when you can complete a finished good, right? What you really want to know. If I start today, when will it be finished? And again, last but not least, it's just that visual representation kind of how APS, the soft schedule, as you see kind of in the green area, as well as the firm schedule where your jobs or your work orders are that have been released to the shop floor to begin working, right? So we're trying to get as close to as possible as a just-in-time environment, synchronizing your supply and demand plans all together. So just jumping into the software here quickly and showing you what a little bit of that looks like, we can see the material planner overview, right? The difference between APS planning and finite versus infinite. So there's two different modes, as mentioned earlier. Finite is going to get down to the full capacity constraints of all of your machine and labor resources, as well as potential tooling. And then they both are going to look at order by order processing, as well as customer-based forecasting, whereas APS planning in a infinite mode only looks at that warehouse planning and forecasting. Additionally, just looking at the other high level spectrum is from the manufacturing level. So again, we have your manufactured item, and we can work in a hybrid amount of ways. So we have production schedules, just-in-time Kanban, as well as service orders and projects for those long-term, possibly 3-6 month agreements or contracts you might be managing, right? So it can work in a full hybrid environment, or it can be 100% just-in-time production scheduling, or whatever it might be. And then, as mentioned earlier, we have your resource groups and resources. So your resource groups are defined at high level, kind of what resource group and what type it is, as well as an infinite or finite resource group. And then as part of that resource group, we have your individual resources that we say is typically not, is best to not use names per se, but just kind of what it is. In this case, it's a labor resource and it's labor number 1. And then last but not least, it's sequence rules and selection rules, where you're kind of adjusting the batting order and when you're getting those completed if they're already allocated to a particular order or job. And then, as mentioned, lastly, we have the features and tools that you might be utilizing. So just one of those examples today is your APS order priority. So what this is allowing you to do is basically customize or personalize to your business how you want to prioritize your orders. So in this case, we can get down to the specific customer order level. In this case, what customer order it is. It can also be by order type. So in the case if it's a web order or EDI, or even a forecast demand, right? So you can really get down to the weeds in how you prioritize all of your demand and what's being achieved first. And then just kind of wrapping things up here, or the last couple slides, just wanted to highlight how finite versus infinite scheduling. Again, as we reviewed, we have different resource limits. Finite considers capacity, infinite does not. Scheduling feasibility, finite generates realistic, achievable plans, right? APS's main goal is make a promise, keep a promise, and optimization goals, finite aims to maximize efficiency, infinite tends to be more theoretical. And just a few of those advantages: realistic schedules, improved efficiency, cost savings, which typically every business is trying to achieve, and last but not least, customer satisfaction. And as we saw with the resource structure, we have the item. So at the end all be all, your finished good or your subassembly item, and then tying that together to the work center where the costing is happening. And then as we broke out the resource group from the resources, so your resource group can be comprised of the different labor, machine, or tool, and then how many of those individual resources roll up to that resource group. Right? And how that could be used in your advantage is if you have particular resources that can work on specific things based on whether it's a unique machine and only components or items can run through that particular machine. And it can also satisfy all the general items and components, same as machine 1. So therefore, we set up 2 machine resource groups: machine resource group, which is just generic, and then the unique machine resource group, which only part 4, 5, 6 can run through. Right? So that's how we differentiate. And then, as I mentioned to you, lastly, is the APS scheduling method. So how to complete it and what is possible as of knowing the orders. So it first accepts the backward schedule if the start date's after today. And if not, if it's before today's date, it starts to reject the backward scheduler and then starts scheduling forward to tell you when you can achieve that. And just a brief snippet into the shop floor experience, showing you kind of what your operators will be greeted with. So completing those jobs and capturing those labor and material costs and various things like that. All can be done with our new shop floor operator experience. And then from there, we also have the supervisors perspective. So at the control tower, they're able to view all of their different work centers or work areas. And as they need to drill down further into those, they can see by different assembly areas, as we see here, kind of what open records, any scrap value, and they can even filter by what's alerted or what's priority, what's starting to be possibly in trouble, and then green, obviously, is everything's good to go, everything's optimized, and everything's being completed as expected. So I'll just leave you with a quote here at the end, again, by Henry Ford. So if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. So change is always typically inevitable, and moving to these new interfaces and incorporating advanced planning and scheduling as much as possible, getting down to finite capacity constraints, really can help optimize your shop floor and the business as a whole. So I want to thank you again. My name is Tyler Springer, and I am a solution consultant engineer with Infor. I just want to thank you again for your time today.